With Monster Hunter Wilds on the horizon, we're going back to Monster Hunter World to relive some of the best builds and hunts of the game. So with that, I'm Darcblade with one of the greatest builds for the insect glaive in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Now each one of these episodes is dedicated to just one build and are slightly different than some of the best builds that have been covered in other videos. Normally covering builds that are either niche, focus heavily on damage or defense, or have some sort of other gimmick that excluded them from the best build videos. Now if you find these videos helpful or informative, consider leaving a like and subscribing to the channel, as it allows me to make more of this content, not only for Monster Hunter World, but also for the upcoming Monster Hunter Wilds. Now in today's video, we're going to be looking at the Tool Specialist Insect Glaive build. This is a build designed for the insect glaive that provides a lot of comfort, but also allows the weapon to perform quite well when it comes to dealing damage to monsters. It's also a raw attack focused build, so it means that it can be taken pretty much against any monster without having to worry about their resistances. So for the Tool Specialist Insect Glaive build, you'll need the full Fatalis armor, which includes the Dragon Head beta, Dragon Hide beta, Dragon Claws beta, Dragon Barbs beta, and the Dragon Feet beta. For your charm, I'm using the Challenger Charm 5. And for my weapon, I'm using the True Fatalis Dias. This has a health regen augmentation and an attack increase augmentation. However, if you feel your health regen is not good enough and you want some more survival, you can increase the health regen even further if you want. As for the Kinsect, this is down to personal preference depending on what you like to use. As for your mantles, now the mantles play a little bit more of an important role with this build than other best and greatest builds out there. So I recommend taking the Rocksteady mantle for one of the options, and then one of the mantles that provide resistances to whatever monster you're going up against. So say you're going up against Namiel, use the waterproof mantle. If you're going up against Kirin, use the thunderproof mantle. And in the case of this video and demonstration, we're going up against Fatalis, so we're going to be bringing the fireproof mantle. The reason being that these two mantles combined together, the cooldown means that we can rotate and have a mantle almost on for the entirety of a hunt. But anyway, moving on to the decorations. Now you may have to switch some of the decorations around depending on what you have available to you. But there is a lot of options and you can pretty much get away with building something similar to what is shown in this video thanks to the sheer amount of decoration slots we have. So first of all, I've gone for Challenger Jewels to max out Agitator, Attack Jewels to get attack boost to at least level 4, Critical Jewels to max out Crit Boost, Maintenance Jewels to max out Tool Specialist, Enhancer Jewels to max out the Power Prolonger skill, Flawless Jewels to max out Peak Performance, Tenderizer Jewels to max out Weakness Exploit, Protection Jewels to max out Divine Blessing, Evasion Jewels to get Evade Window to level 4, Expert Jewels to max out Critical Eye, and then finally a Jumping Jewel for a point in the Evade Extender skill. As for the decorations on the mantles, I've gone for Attack Jewels on the Rocksteady mantle and then Destroyer Jewels on the Fireproof mantle. This will give us access to Part Breaker when we're wearing the Fireproof mantle. Like I said, a lot of these decorations are kind of optional. The Jumping Jewel, for example, you don't really have to take that. You could drop a point in Power Prolonger, the Enhancer Jewels, if you wanted to. The Flawless decorations too are kind of optional to a degree as well, as sometimes maintaining your health at 100% can be difficult. But anyway, moving on to the stats. First of all, you'll have a health and stamina rating of 200 thanks to the Fatalis set bonus, and this is regardless of if we've eaten anything at the canteen. You have a raw attack of 1200, which potentially can be more depending when certain buffs are activated, like the Agitator skill. You have a decent chunk of purple sharpness with 15% base affinity. This can be 85% when you take into account Agitator and Weakness Exploit. You'll then have a dragon rating of 120 with high Elder Seal. Your Kinsect bonus will depend on what Kinsect you are actually using. As for your defense, you have a strong defense of 1121 that is strong against water and thunder, neutral against ice, but unfortunately weak to fire and especially dragon. Anyway, let's move on to the skills. First of all, you'll have Critical Eye at level 7, increasing the base affinity of this build, helping negate the negative affinity found on the Fatalis Insect Glaive. You'll then have Agitator at level 7, a skill, or buff should I say, that kicks in whenever a monster becomes enraged, granting us bonus affinity and raw attack. And as we can easily control when a monster becomes enraged thanks to the whole Clutch Claw and Flint Shot mechanics, we should be able to activate Agitator quite often. You'll then have Divine Blessing at level 5, a skill that gives us a chance at taking reduced damage should we take a hit from a monster, a nice defensive skill. You'll then have Tool Specialist at level 5, the namesake of this build. Tool Specialist is a skill that severely reduces the cooldown on mantles, which allows us to pretty much have a mantle if you're using the right sort of mantles, i.e. the mantles that have cooldowns that align with one another, for almost 100% of the hunt. You'll then have Attack Boost at level 4, which can be potentially level 6 when you're wearing the Rocksteady mantle, granting us a raw attack bonus, and at level 4 or above grants us a 5% base affinity bonus. You'll then have Evade Window at level 4. It would have been nice to get this to level 5, but Evade Window at level 4 is still very useful. This basically grants us increased invincibility frames when we perform dodges and evades. You'll then have Stun Resistance at level 3, a byproduct of the armor we're wearing that negates all stun effects against our hunter. You'll then have Critical Boost at level 3, a skill that grants our attacks bonus damage when they crit a monster, but only applies to the raw portion of an attack, not the elemental portion. You'll then have Weakness Exploit at level 3, a skill that grants us bonus affinity when we're attacking monster weak points. By default this is 30%, but if the monster weak point is tenderized through Clutch Claw attacks first, this can be up to 50%. You'll then have Power Prolonger at level 3, a skill that when it comes to the Insect Glaive allows us to keep our Kinsect powered up for longer periods of time. It's a quality of life skill that definitely helps. You'll then have Peak Performance at level 3, granting us bonus raw attacks so long as our health is at 100%. As I mentioned before when we were talking about augmentations, if you feel the health regen thanks to the health regen augmentation isn't enough, increasing this will allow the synergy between the augmentation and peak performance to work even better. You'll then have Evade Extender at level 1, which is a skill that increases the distance at which we dodge and evade and such, and this does apply to when you're in the air. And then finally you'll have Part Breaker at level 2, when you're wearing the elemental resistant mantle, allowing us to break monster body parts more easily when we're actually wearing that mantle. Finally, you'll have the Fatalis Legends set bonus. These include the Inheritance set bonus, which allows certain skills to break the level cap. In the case of this build, it allows Agitator to get to level 7, Divine Blessing to get to level 5, and Tool Specialist to get to level 5. And for wearing 4 pieces of the Fatalis armor set, we'll get the Transcendence set bonus. This allows our health and stamina to get to 200 regardless of if we've eaten or not. It also eliminates the need for health boost, and on top of that it grants us the True Razor Sharp skill, which reduces the sharpness loss on our weapon, helping us maintain that purple sharpness and white sharpness for longer periods of time. So there we have it, those are all the stats and skills for the Tool Specialist build for the Insect Glaive. But every build out there, even the best of the best builds, they all come with pros and cons. No build is perfect. When it comes to this Tool Specialist build, the first pro though is its damage output. For an Insect Glaive build, even though it doesn't have every single possible DPS skill available, it can still bring down monsters at a reasonably quick pace. Critical Eye, Agitator, Attack Boost, Crit Boost, Weakness Exploit, and Peak Performance, these all help when it comes to dealing damage to monsters. Which brings us on to the second pro, which are the mantles themselves. Having a mantle almost active 100% of a hunt allows for a lot of uninterrupted damage, making up for the fact that we don't have certain DPS skills like Coalescence. And the final pro is the quality of life skills that this build has. Divine Blessing, Tool Specialist, Weakness Exploit, Stun Resistance, Power Prolonger, Evade Extender, these will all add to the quality of your hunt, making it feel a little bit more easier than the hunt maybe is. But unfortunately there are cons. One of the biggest cons for this build is, yes, it is unfortunately relying on mantles, which I know some players dislike. And the other con is, unfortunately, there will be times where even though we have True Razor Sharp, we may experience sharpness issues, especially if you like to use the Insect Glaive in the air a lot. But despite its cons, the pros make this build incredibly fun to use, and I'd highly recommend it for anyone who wants to take on the harder hunts in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Remember, with the Insect Glaive as well, you do more damage on the ground unfortunately, but you have more survival in the air, so keep that in mind. Lastly as well, if anyone is wondering why we haven't taken Coalescence, which I normally do with these greatest builds, it's because we are using elemental resistance mantles, which basically means that when we're wearing those mantles we cannot trigger Coalescence. So Coalescence has been replaced in the case of this build with Peak Performance. But what are your thoughts? Please leave a comment down below, and until next time, I've been Darcblade, bringing you one of the greatest builds for the Insect Glaive in Monster Hunter World Iceborne. Hope you enjoyed the video, thanks for watching, subscribe and like for more.